Everyone is panicking about layoffs right now. It's the headline on every news site. It's the whisper in every break room. It's the thing people refresh their feeds about at 2 in the morning. But I'm going to let you in on something that the headlines completely miss. The layoff is the loud move. It's the blunt instrument companies reach for when they've run out of patience or run out of options. The quieter play, the one that's happening to far more people than any layoff statistic will ever capture, is the slow, deliberate squeeze that's engineered to get you to resign on your own. They never have to fire you. You walk out the door believing it was your decision, and they get everything they wanted without lifting a finger. I spent years on the inside watching this get mapped out in conference rooms, and today I'm going to walk you through exactly how the machine operates, who it usually comes for first, and what to do the moment you feel it starting. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, I'm Dre, and this is the place where we pull the curtain all the way back on how careers actually function inside big organizations. Not the shiny version they hand you on day one, but the version that gets discussed behind closed doors where you're never invited. I've sat in those rooms. I know how these decisions get made and the language people use to make them sound clean. Before we go any further, one quick thing. Nothing in this video is legal advice. This is educational. It's me sharing what I've seen, and if you ever think you're in a genuinely serious situation, you should sit down with an employment attorney who knows the laws where you live. With that out of the way, if this kind of honest, no-fluff breakdown is useful to you, do me a small favor and hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing, and it tells me to keep making these. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the part most people get wrong, which is who actually ends up in the crosshairs. Your instinct probably says the obvious target is the underperformer, the person coasting, the one everybody can see isn't pulling their weight. And sure, those people do get nudged toward the exit. But the person who gets caught in this trap is very often the opposite. It's the most expensive person on the team, the one with the biggest salary, the longest tenure, the most seniority. The person whose severance package would cost the company a small fortune if they did it the honest way. Sometimes it's someone over the age of 40, or someone who falls into a protected category where a clean termination might invite a discrimination claim and a lawyer the company really doesn't want to deal with. Sometimes it's purely political. The person is well-liked or connected, or firing them outright would send a message to the rest of the team that leadership doesn't want to send. So instead of dealing with any of that head-on, they do the math. And the math, even when nobody says it out loud, goes something like this. If we can get this person to quit, we skip the awkward conversation. We skip the severance check. We skip the legal exposure. We skip the bad optics with the rest of the team. All we have to do is make staying feel worse than leaving. So how do they actually pull that off? Quietly, subtly, in a way that's specifically designed to make you question whether you're imagining the whole thing. It usually starts with absence. The meetings you used to be in, suddenly you're not on the invite. The email threads where decisions get made, you're no longer copied. A project that would have obviously been yours quietly lands on someone else's desk, and when you ask, you get a vague answer about restructuring or needing someone closer to it. Bit by bit, your plate gets lighter. And here's the trap inside the trap. A lot of people feel relieved by that. Same paycheck, less work. What's not to love? But a shrinking workload is rarely a gift. It's usually a signal. You might get quietly moved off the marquee client and handed something nobody internally takes seriously. You might get shuffled into a project that everyone already knows is a dead end. If you've been working remotely, and this one has gotten incredibly common, you might suddenly be told you're required back in the office 5 days a week. No exceptions. Knowing full well the commute or the life you've built makes that nearly impossible. If you're a manager, watch your reporting line. One week, you've got a team. The next, your direct reports get reassigned and you're offered a more focused or more technical role, which is a polite way of saying you're being quietly demoted back into an individual contributor. Your salary might hold for a while. It usually doesn't hold forever. Watch the money signals too, because they're some of the loudest ones. The raise that always came around like clockwork suddenly doesn't. The promotion you were clearly in line for goes to someone else with a vaguer resume and a quieter mouth. Your budget gets trimmed. Your travel gets questioned. The little discretionary things that made the job workable start drying up one by one. None of it is ever framed as personal. It's always the economy, or the new fiscal year, or a company-wide tightening. But somehow, it lands hardest on the exact person they prefer to see walk. And in the cruelest version of all, some people get asked to train the very person who's being lined up to replace them. And they do it. Because no one has ever told them what's actually happening. They feel something is off, but they can't name it, so they comply. Then there's the paperwork version. If there's any performance angle at all, real or manufactured, the performance improvement plan tends to show up next. And I want to be straight with you about what a PIP usually is. Most of the time, it is not a genuine attempt to help you improve. It's a paper trail. It's documentation built to protect the company on the way to a decision they've already made. That doesn't mean a PIP is a guaranteed termination, but if one lands on your desk, the honest move is to start quietly updating your resume that same week. Generally speaking, by the time it's written, you've already been moved into the long-term, probably not column in someone's mind. And sometimes, there's no PIP at all. Sometimes, it's just a temperature change. Your manager goes from warm to cool. Feedback gets clipped. Every conversation suddenly comes with a follow-up email. Everything is documented. You feel eyes on you in a way you didn't before. That shift in tone isn't an accident. It's part of the same playbook. Now here's the part that ties it all together, and it's the part that's almost uncomfortable to admit. What they're really banking on is your pride. Most people, the moment they feel the walls closing in, do not want the humiliation of being pushed out. They want to leave with their dignity intact, on their own terms, before anyone can do it to them. It feels better to jump than to be shoved. And companies understand that instinct better than you do. They are counting on it. There's actually a name for this when it gets pushed far enough. In the United States, it's called constructive dismissal or constructive discharge. And I'll flag that this is U.S. legal framing. So if you're watching from somewhere else, the principle often exists, but the specifics differ. And I'm happy to break down how this works internationally if enough of you ask. The idea is that an employer creates working conditions so intolerable that a reasonable person would feel they had no real choice but to resign. And here's the irony. By doing that, the company is actually exposing itself to the exact legal risks it was trying to avoid by not firing you. The catch is that the bar to prove it is high, and these companies know precisely where that line sits and how to operate just underneath it. But make no mistake about the intent. The intent is to get you gone without ever having to say the words, "You're fired." So if you're sitting there right now, recognizing some of this, here's what I want you to do. First, breathe. Don't panic. And second, please hear me on this. Do not quit. I mean it. Do not hand in that resignation. Here's the single most important thing to understand about the position you're in. The difference between being let go and walking away on your own is the difference between leaving with a severance check and leaving with nothing. Either way, you're going to be between jobs for a stretch. Either way, you're going to have to explain the gap in an interview. But in one version, you walk out with money in your account and a clean story. The company made a change. It wasn't about you. In the other version, you've handed them the exact outcome they engineered. And now you're explaining why you walked away from a paycheck with nothing lined up. One of those is a far harder story to tell. So let them make the decision. Yes, it might bruise your ego to sit in a situation where you can feel you're not wanted. So what? Ego doesn't pay your rent. Brush it off and remember that you do not actually want to keep building a future at a place that's quietly trying to push you out the side door anyway. And look, if any of this is landing a little too close to home, I want you to pause for a second before you spiral. Recognizing the pattern is not the same as confirming it. Not every reassignment is a conspiracy. Not every quiet week means you're on a list. The point isn't to make you paranoid. The point is to make you literate in a language that most employees never get taught, so that when it is happening, you see it clearly, instead of talking yourself into believing you're the problem. If that distinction is useful to you, that subscribe button is right there, and it's the single best way to make sure these breakdowns keep showing up for you. In the meantime, while you're letting them own the decision, you protect yourself. Quietly, methodically, no frantic energy. Get your resume current, not desperate current, just up to date and honest about what you've actually accomplished. Warm up your network, and if you don't really have one, this is your sign to start building one before you need it. Because the worst time to build a network is the moment you're desperate. Start gathering your evidence. Copies of your performance reviews, especially the good ones, before your access to them mysteriously disappears. Save the emails that document your wins, the project outcomes, the numbers you moved. If your situation ever does turn into something legal, that record matters. And if it just turns into a job search, that record is the backbone of your next resume and your next interview. Do all of it calmly, in the background, like it's just routine maintenance. Whatever you do, don't give them the gift of making your exit look voluntary. At the end of all of this, here's what I want you to take with you. Trust your instincts. If something feels off at work, if the meeting's dried up, the tone shifted, the project's drifted away, there's usually a reason your gut is sounding the alarm. You don't have to act on it dramatically. You just have to stop dismissing it. The single biggest advantage you can have in your career is understanding what the other side of the table is thinking. Because once you can see the playbook, it loses almost all of its power over you. They're counting on you not knowing the game. The simple act of knowing it changes how you play it. If you found this helpful and you want to go deeper, I've got more breakdowns on exactly this kind of thing all over this channel. Do me that favor and subscribe so you don't miss them. And the next one you should watch is on what a performance improvement plan really means and how to handle one the right way if it ever lands on your desk. Because that single document trips up more good people than almost anything else in the corporate world. I'll see you in that one. You've got this.